Gonna go right at 7. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Can we have roll call?
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Irvin.
Here.
Councilmember Degree.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Nyhart.
Present.
Mayor Stone.
Here. And we'll have the salute to the flag led by Councilmember O'Neill.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The flag's in the wrong spot. Flag's in the wrong spot.
And we didn't have a closed session, so there's no closed session report. And before we get to the consent calendar, I wanted to welcome our new city manager, Lori Tinfo, who's here. And it's her first meeting, as most of you know. And we just really wanted to give you a warm welcome, and we're really excited to get going and starting to work with you.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Thank you. All right, well, that'll take us to the consent calendar. What are the wishes of council? Councilmember Irvin?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda for October 28th.
Okay.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, were you going to second?
Just a second.
Would you like to comment, Sue, at all?
No.
Okay, please vote. And that passes 5-0. And that'll bring us to our first of two special presentations tonight. The first is the library annual report. And I believe Tom Ball is here from the library. Hi. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
How are you? Good.
Good evening, Mayor Stone, honorable council members, our new city manager, Ms. Tinfo, welcome, and Ms. O'Connell. I'm here this evening to give a brief presentation of the San Mateo County Library's annual report for fiscal year 2012 and 13, which you'll find in the packets that were just distributed. The report highlights accomplishments across the system, and I will spend a little time highlighting our accomplishments here in Pacifica, and also talk a little bit about the importance of libraries to a community and the benefits that we all derive from a vibrant library presence. Briefly, the library's statistics reveal strong usage of the libraries, circulating over 322,000 items last year, enjoying 164,000 visits, answering more than 25,000 questions, and presenting story times and programs that drew close to 21,000 attendees to the libraries.
God bless.
As our community struggles to come out of the recession and the schools move to adopt the new Common Core standards, the library continues to provide vital support to those seeking job services, to be an important component of the formal education process through a growing collaborative partnership with both the Pacifica School District and the Jefferson Union High School District, and to give preschool-aged children and their parents the resources and strategies to ensure that their children succeed in school and, by extension, in our evolving economy. I attended a conference last week called The Big Lift, a San Mateo County initiative that aims to make sure that every child in San Mateo County is reading at grade level by the 3rd grade, a program to which the County Board of Supervisors dedicated Measure A funds in order to ensure that our children are prepared to assume their place as the stewards of our beautiful county. Even though San Mateo County is one of the wealthiest counties in the United States, 42% of our children are not at reading at grade level by the 3rd grade, which puts them behind in almost every measurable category of school success from which most never recover. The library plays a huge part in preparing Pacifica's children for school success by offering story times and other programs aimed at children of all ages from birth through high school. We are focusing on preschool children since most cognitive development takes place in the first 5 years of life. And if a child is exposed to reading at the earliest stages, it increases the chances that that child will have the tools that she or he needs to be ready for school and to succeed in their adult life. It is the library's unique position in the life of a community to engage in this critical endeavor because realistically the future of our city, our county, state, and nation depend on it in the global economy. Part of our efforts will be focused on the educational aspects of play, music appreciation, both through audience participation and learning to play an instrument, and a complete revamping of our summer reading program. Studies have long documented what is termed learning loss over the summer months, which can be as much as 22% of the material that they learned the previous year. By the time they come back 2.5 months later, they've lost 22% of it. And we will be taking proactive steps to ensure the Pacifica's children will have every opportunity to be those children that retain and enhance their educations throughout the year. We are shifting our focus in programming away from performance-based programs to more locally developed craft and skill-based programs that have elicited tremendous response so far, highlighting the emergence of a strong DIY movement, which is the do-it-yourself movement, in Pacifica. We introduced a series of maker camps this year in conjunction with PB&R's Homework Center, as one example. Another example, we just created and presented our first Dia de los Muertos program this past Friday night, much of which allowed for children and families to decorate their own sugar skulls and masks, get their faces painted, listen to fantastic mariachi music, and more. Over 260 people attended that event. And it was one of the most inspiring programs I've ever been part of. My wife Wendy and I helped kids and some adults decorate the sugar skulls, and to watch those kids exhibit their innate creativity and have fun doing it was so fulfilling and hopeful for our collective futures. The exposure to a cultural celebration in conjunction with creative expression is part of what the libraries are uniquely positioned to do. As always, your support for library operations in the present and your dedication to creating Pacifica's library future with a new 21st century facility are tangible measures of your understanding of the value of libraries, which goes far beyond merely checking out library materials. The library serves as a community gathering place, a destination for group study, lifelong learning, affordable recreational opportunities, and access to the digital world in which so much of our daily lives and business is conducted. Additionally, many studies have shown that libraries are an economic engine for communities, not only through the benefits of a shared set of resources that allow every individual to save money from not having to purchase resources that she needs, to save precious time better allocated to personal enrichment and the opportunities that that creates, in particular, like a new job. But mainly, it's the foot traffic that libraries generate for surrounding businesses. A new library can often double the number of visits per year when it opens. So imagine, as part of the Beach Boulevard project and the revitalization program for the Palmetto District, the library's drawing close to 400,000 visits a year. And conservatively, just conservatively, 1% of those people decide, well, as long as I'm in the area, let's go have lunch. Let's go buy some candy or a cupcake, pick up a gift, buy a book, or just go get a cup of coffee and a sandwich. That's 4,000 customers you've never seen before. As I said, that's a conservative estimate, and I think the impact will actually be far greater. This is a definition of a win-win for our community, and I and everyone connected to the library thank you for your ongoing critical support for a new library facility in Pacifica. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Just two quick questions.
Sure.
Tom, would you just reiterate one more time the duplication between our two libraries in terms of the circulation, the stacks?
You mean the stats for both together? The both together was 322,000 items.
No, I'm talking about the, yeah.
Oh, the duplication within the community?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a huge overlap in that. There's like 41% of adult materials are duplicated. 56% of the reference materials have to be duplicated. And close to over 50%, I don't have it right off the top of my head, but it's over 50% for juvenile materials. Because there's certain things that libraries have to have. In order to be a fully functioning library, you have to have those things. So we have to do both, so there's a tremendous overlap.
So our circulation is probably impacted.
Yes. It is, and another reason, I'm sorry, another reason that it's impacted is because we're thin. We're thin in everything. We have to have a little bit of everything, and that doesn't allow us to go deep.
Yeah.
In critical subject areas.
Which brings me to my second question. You talked about early childhood and growth of the brain for sure, but there's a second growth spurt, and that's in early adolescence, and we're often not thinking about that as well. And
Right.
I'm wondering what kind of programs you're going to offer or potentially offer to engage that age group.
Well, actually, right now, last week, they were interviewing for a new librarian position for us. And that librarian is going to be focused on that, what they call the tweens, you know, that middle school age through teens. And that's going to be his or her focus from here on, because we've been developing teen programs, but I haven't had a librarian to be able to assign that particular thing. We've actually had a couple of our staff members, one of which is no longer here, but also another one, Nicole Cassidy White, and it was formerly Kim Day, who focused on that, and they chose to do that. So Nicole right now is running our volunteer program, because we have a lot of kids from Oceana, and she runs programs, and she has the kids develop them themselves. And they market it, they do everything for it. So that is an underserved part of our population.
Right.
And I've wanted a teen librarian for a long time. I'm finally going to get one.
Wonderful.
So that's coming.
Thank you very much, and thank everybody for their hard
I will.
work.
Thank
I
you,
will.
Tom. Councilmember Irvin?
Thank you so much for the presentation. Really interesting to hear about all the amazing programs that you have going on there. I was just wondering about some of the, you had mentioned that libraries are no longer just about checking out books. Can you kind of comment on some of the other things that librarians today focus on with the people that are going to the library?
Well, a lot of what we've done, we've switched over. We used to be an intervention model, where if you wanted something in the library, you had to go through us to get it. If you wanted something on the shelf, if you wanted a reference question answered, if you wanted any of that done, you had to go through the library staff to get that. We've completely shifted over to a teaching model, where we're not only teaching people how to use the library's resources, but there's a lot of digital literacy that we're engaged in now, where we're teaching people how to use these materials, how to use the online materials, and how to evaluate it. Because you know how it is, you do a Google search, you get 1 billion hits. What do you do with that? And especially with kids, I know I work with the seniors at Oceana. That's part of what we teach them, is how to do effective research, how to ferret out all the stuff that's irrelevant, bring in the things that you actually need, and save yourself time. Now, for people who are seeking jobs, we see a lot of people who are coming in now. You can't even apply for unemployment except online anymore. So we're teaching people how to use those tools. And so that's a big shift. That's probably our biggest shift, is away from intervention over to teaching. Now, the other thing is as a community gathering place. This is where people come together to solve the community's problems, or within their own small sub-niche. You know how many little subcultures there are throughout every city. And those people will come to the library for that. You know, I mean, I can
Right.
probably go on and on.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Is this just questions?
I just wanted to mention, you know, from my previous time on the school board, how supportive they are of the teachers and the resources going into the classroom. Then I think there was, at one point you had, what was it, a couple hundred periodicals that you subscribed to, that you could just go on through their portal, and you wouldn't really need to buy the magazines. You could just go through their portal. And kind of as a follow-up to Marianne's question, IBL is the school that the kids there have access to the San Mateo County Library, and the books are actually dropped off and picked up there at IBL through the library. And again, that's support for the schools and the kids there. And then you also have the community room there at Hilton, which I know is booked quite a bit. The Historical Society was using that earlier this month, but I just wanted to kind of commend at how much efforts and outreach you guys do with the community. It's not just a bunch of musty old books, you know, it's quite a bit more than that.
No.
Councilmember
Thank you.
Degree?
Right, just a comment.
Yes.
All that we just said points to an educated society, which is the basis for our freedom. So I thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
And Tom, thank you so much for everything that you do and your staff. Please give our thanks. I think we all are very appreciative of everything you do. Please relay our thanks to them.
I will.
And I know we're all big, I think we've all expressed our support for libraries and for potentially a new library that would be able to provide a lot more services at a better value. I think Mayor Pro Tem touched on some of the duplication and that it's just more cost effective to run one location, and of course with stable hours and all of those things. So we're really looking forward to the future, and everything I think that you're doing with the resources that you have has been amazing. So just wanted to congratulate you and your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tonight.
You're welcome. Good night.
And we have one more special presentation from Samtrans.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the privilege of presenting today to the council Samtrans plans for the future of service in one of the neighborhoods in Pacifica. So I'm going to throw a few numbers at you to start, but I want to make clear that to us, transit service is more than just numbers. This is about the communities that we serve and the people that use our services, and we want to ensure that all residents of San Mateo County have access to mobility services to allow them to get to work or to the services they need on a day-to-day basis. So the route in question, the area that we're talking about today, is served by Route 14. There's about 5,800 total trips in the month of September 2013. It worked out to about 250 passengers per average weekday. Any given day it could be up or down. And it works out to about 15 passengers a trip on weekdays. And this is going to be a little bit of a tongue twister, but 37% of the weekday Route 14 riders are on 20% of the trips. So if there's 30 trips, 6 of those trips carry 37% of the riders. So there's a large number of riders on a relatively small number of Route 14 trips. We also found that there are fewer than 9 passengers per trip after 6 p.m. And there's just under 12 passengers per trip on Saturday and Sunday. And this is just kind of the background. So what does Route 14 service look like right now? It's comprised of about 30 trips on any given weekday. 23 of those trips run in a clockwise motion. The route's kind of a loop. So 23 of the trips run clockwise, beginning at Lindemar Park and Ride. And 7 trips run counterclockwise, and those kind of fill in some of the gaps in the service day. On the weekends, there's 23 trips on a given day. 13 of those are clockwise, and 10 of those, 13 clockwise trips on Saturday and 10 clockwise trips on Sunday, and there are no counterclockwise trips on the weekend. So there's 23 in a given weekend. And one of the things that we're looking at based on the numbers that we've put in here is the weekend service is relatively modest in terms of what's out there, and that it doesn't carry as many riders as the more productive weekday service. So what are we proposing here? We looked at the Route 14 and we noticed that there's a lot of folks riding a relatively small number of the trips. So we're proposing to continue to operate those trips that are still performing well. And as a side note, the trips that carry the most folks are timed around school bells. So if you were to get on one of the trips that carries the most folks, you'd notice that those folks are a little younger than your average adult. So what we wanted to do is we looked at the demographics of the area and we looked at how people were using the services. And we decided that it might be time to see if we can create a really community-based transportation service, something that's tailored to the community that the community can take ownership of. And what we've looked around and seen is that there's kind of an innovative model out there for service provision, transit service, and that's what's called a deviated fixed route. And that's planner speak. I didn't understand it 5 years ago. So what a deviated fixed route is it's like the 14. It's a fixed route with a fixed schedule. The bus follows a schedule, and it has a prescribed route. But what we do is allow for the bus to actually go off the route 1 to 2 times each trip to pick up or drop off people within a certain distance of the route that we've put on the map. And so from a customer's perspective, what they see is a lot more flexibility. They can kind of call in ahead of time, call a single number prior to their trip, they call a reservation line, and they can actually reserve a spot, a time that the bus will come off of its route, pick them up at the curb, and then return back to its route using its prescribed schedule. These dispatches occur based on feasibility and availability. So if you want to schedule a trip, if you want to schedule a deviation on the very next trip, that's probably not enough lead time. And also if there are a lot of people that want the bus to deviate off the route on one specific trip, that's probably not feasible because it would put the bus so far behind that it would never be able to catch up. And so what we want to do with this new service is, as we've mentioned, just create something that's tailored to the community and that meets the community's needs, while allowing us to still carry as many passengers as possible within the area. So we're looking to replace most of Route 14 service with this new deviated fixed route service in January 2014. So what would this mean? The adult fare would be $2, just like any normal Samtrans route. One of the important things to note about this is that we have a lot of Ready Wheels customers, our paratransit service in the area, and currently they kind of, it's demand response. You call and you schedule a trip, and you get picked up depending on, availability. Those trips cost each passenger pays $3.75. This would allow them to still get on a regular route and only pay $2 for the same trip. It obviously wouldn't be able to deviate and go all the way into, Daly City or something like that, but it could provide them with a transfer at Lindemar. It would operate from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays and would offer, depending on how many times it can make the loop and how many deviations it makes in a given day, anywhere from 11 to 22 trips per weekday. That's dependent on it being operating every 30 to 60 minutes. So what the service area would be the current Route 14 area plus deviations, and we've done the math, and the deviations actually can cover pretty much all the residential area within that community. So it would provide a lot of opportunities for folks that right now can't walk all the way to the route. And we think it would allow a lot of flexibility with respect to how the community can get around and get to major destinations and to work and to services that they need. All vehicles would be lift-equipped, ADA accessible vehicles, just like the rest of our fleet. And the stops that we'll use will rely almost entirely on existing Route 14 stops, but obviously there's a lot of flexibility in terms of the deviations. It doesn't need to stop at a stop. It can come to the curb in front of your house so long as the road is navigable. So the primary connection point on this is just like the Route 14. It's going to connect at Lindemar Park and Ride and circulate out from there into the community. And Lindemar Park and Ride is a great transit hub. In January, it will have connections to the 110, 112, and 118, as well as our plan is to connect Route 17 up there 7 days a week from Half Moon Bay. So there'll be connections south 7 days a week. On weekdays, those connections will occur every half an hour if you want to go south. And that represents like a great deal of flexibility in terms of where the community wants to go. North, south, there's a lot of buses going through that transfer station every hour. This can be a little hard to see. This is the proposed route with the red arrows indicating the direction. There are lots of little black flecks. Each one of those black flecks on the screen is actually a Ready Wheels customer. So when we look around this area and we see, who could benefit most from this new service, we're thinking that a lot of those folks in the that are current Ready Wheels customers would have another, arrow in the quiver, so to speak, in terms of how they can get around the area. They'll still obviously have access to Ready Wheels itself. And the shades of orange represent the density of senior and disabled persons within the community. So we tried to make sure we could get access to all of them, but there are some places where we'll need to deviate off the route depending on customer demand. So this is a very plain version of the vehicle. It'll be branded like the rest of Samtrans. It'll have access to Clipper and the rest of our regular fare box options. We're proposing a vehicle that's 25 feet long with room for 16 ambulatory passengers and 2 wheelchairs. It would use a gasoline engine. So this represents, savings in terms of the, it's quieter, it's uses less fuel per gallon, and we think it's a little bit cleaner for the environment and a little bit less obtrusive into the community than a traditional 40-foot bus that's potentially running half empty, which the current Route 14 is doing at a lot of times. So as I talked about, some of the advantages of this, besides it being something that the community can really kind of take share in, is that it's a smaller, lighter, quieter bus, less noise and vibration for homeowners and residents along the route. It's going to result in decreased congestion in the area. It's obviously more fuel efficient, and emissions are lower. The community also has access to a curb-to-curb on-demand service, provided the trips are feasible. And the other thing we want to stress more than anything is that there's greater flexibility in this than the current Route 14. So one of the most critical things when launching a new service is explaining it to people. We can't go to every single house and sit down and walk people through all the intricacies of this new service. So we're starting today. We started actually about a year ago. And what we'd like to do is do a variety of things to generate community support. This is a critical component of our countywide as well as our local efforts with the Samtrans service plan. So we're going to have a wide countywide effort that involves all our normal marketing channels. But we think that this deserves a lot of extra support within the community itself. So we want to make sure that leading up to the change, that there's plenty of information available to existing customers on routes that serve Pacifica as well as Route 14. So we're going to provide take ones and onboard messages on those buses ahead of the change. And one thing that's proven successful since we've been doing it across the last year or so, and we've also included this within our Title VI plans, is to make sure that we work through community-based organizations. These organizations, and we just have a couple examples up there, often have the really close ties to the community and are a really great way to kind of add a little volume to the megaphone. So that way we're able to tell one person who tells multiple people who tells multiple people, and we can get the word out and make sure that there's information about the service change and the expanded and more flexible options available to the community. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or dialogue.
A question from Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a couple. First of all, let me say I appreciate this because there was a time when we stood to lose Route 14 altogether. So this is a much better approach, and when I first heard it, I was thrilled. A couple little tweaks I want to ask about.
Absolutely.
First off is, what was the ridership? Because you're going past some pretty significant schools. So the smaller bus, what's the plan around? And I think mostly when school gets out at like Terra Nova and is there any plan around that? Or?
So we have a really good relationship with schools in that they know how to communicate with us very effectively. So we've gotten a lot of feedback about loads, student loads, and a lot of students being on buses, and concerns from parents and teachers and school administrators about the students' standees and dangerous situations with students standing up. The point of this particular service is not to carry students. We're going to retain the existing 40-foot bus trips on the Route 14 that will continue to serve students, so that those students have the same option that they have today, and they don't need to worry about this service unless they're doing something that's not school-related.
Okay, well, good. And the second question is, so you've already thought about that one. The second question is really geared to seniors, because you did just outline a huge percentage of our seniors and several dwellings that are just predominantly seniors. have heard from several of the seniors, even about our own shuttle, the difficulty that they have making that first step. And I was wondering if there's any consideration toward that past the lifts. They'd like to be able to walk in the front door, but that first step up sometimes is really hard for some individuals.
Absolutely. Well, our regular buses can kneel, which
Okay.
kind of mitigates
Yeah.
a little bit of that. I can't recall off the top of my head whether these buses kneel. And you are right that going straight to the door, while some properties do it, I think we've elected not to do it for liability reasons. But I can look into what we can do to see if we can literally encourage or make it easier for seniors and persons with disabilities to actually make the first literal step onto the bus.
That's the key thing is that, and I hear from a number of seniors, particularly in the area you're serving is kind of our focal point for seniors. So they want to be able to get around. They want to be able to get around like everybody else, and yet getting on that first step is a real challenge. So I just want to encourage you to look at that in that arena. And then when you come up with a solution, make that part of the outreach.
Okay.
So that they know that bus is different in some way.
I think those are great suggestions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Irvin.
Just a couple questions. I'm just curious if this, on-demand format has been done in other cities, and how difficult do you foresee it being to stay on schedule?
Those are excellent questions. So there are a lot of communities that currently use this. Some of the models for it are Stockton. San Joaquin Regional Transit District uses it a lot. And my home county, North County, San Diego, uses it quite a bit.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, it's used to kind of provide a fixed route service while also allowing persons with disabilities to have access to that service, particularly in areas where it's difficult to serve. So that's generally what it's used for. And we think that this area is a good candidate because of some of the demographics that we've talked about. And it also allows people to take a little bit more ownership of the service versus a less personal, large bus that's running down the street that won't come straight to your curb.
Right.
But the biggest concern with this service, and the thing that the industry kind of struggles with, is obviously keeping on time. So what we do and what we'll include within the outreach materials is there will be a limit on the number of folks, the number of deviations that it'll make off its route per trip.
Okay.
So what you do from a planning perspective is you build too much time into the schedule so that it has a lot of dead time in it to allow for a certain number of deviations off the route. And you expect some trips to kind of finish a little early and some trips to finish late, and it to kind of even out over the course of the day. In an ideal world, we'd have overflowing demand for the service and for the on-demand trips. One thing that we would do in that case, if we see repeated on-demand requests from certain areas, is look at revising the actual route so that we don't have to deviate off into those areas and that we can actually capture them on the regular route. So this kind of allows for, I guess, an incremental planning approach. The route can adjust to how the community's using the route.
Great, thank you. I just had one more question. I just want to clarify. So there will be no more Route 14 on weekends?
Correct.
Is that correct? Is there any concern, we do have a lot of senior citizens in the back of the valley. Is there a significant ridership right now? That would be my primary concern, was making sure that our seniors can get to Lindemar Park and Ride and the community center where there is the free shuttle, but I don't know what is available to them on the weekends.
The primary service on the weekends would be Ready Wheels, which would provide them with the on-demand access. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
Okay.
There's some trade-offs, obviously, that we've kind of discussed today. And I want to make sure this is a pilot service, so we're going to operate it for a year in this configuration. And during that time, we're evaluating it. And if it turns out that there's a lot of demand on the weekend, if we're getting a lot of feedback that, weekend service is a critical component of what we need in this community, then, this is kind of our first step, and we want to be able to build off its success and build the service and build support for it and build ridership moving forward.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Degree.
Right, as you know, I'm excited about this, but I have the same concerns. But what I like about it is that you're doing the incremental and you're open-minded to it, so that if, like you said, if we need the weekend, that's good. I think your outreach to the various areas is going to be really good, right?
Yeah. We're getting a lot better at outreach.
And people can call you and give their comments now. You don't have to wait till, is that right?
We're open, yeah. We're willing to accept comments, and we think this is a good first step towards building a positive relationship between transit and the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Neill.
I just want to say is that I had a phone call from Terra Nova about an issue with Samtrans, and it was a second bus wasn't showing up. And fortunately, I mean, once we got to the right person, it was fixed within 2 days, but it did take us 6 weeks to find the right person. So I would really encourage you to take and, you know, I had to call 2 supervisors' office, and then they called me. So I would really encourage you to please have some sort of clear delineation of where people call if there is an issue. And if you can, maybe send that to city staff and maybe us, since we get phone calls.
Well, yeah. I can leave you with my card. I'm actually in the planning and scheduling department. So if you need schedules adjusted or anything like that, I'm a good...
Well, the bus wasn't showing up. It was,
Yeah.
and I know that's a contract service, and
Yeah.
then late in the morning and then not showing up in the afternoon, leaving 50 kids stranded until finally one kid's leg was broken. Then all of a sudden, Samtrans showed up, you know. But anyhow, I would also like to take in, another concern is besides just the seniors, there is you know, there's quite a bit of youth activities in the you know, the weekends. Is there can youth, or is there any age restriction on picking up?
This is a general public vehicle. There's no restrictions on anyone for any
And
reason.
so they can call up and ask, can they call up and be picked up at their house, but then say that they want to get off at a specific place, and would you do the deviation at the drop-off, half mile
Yeah,
from the, you know, the main route?
on the route, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, one more question.
I just wanted to say that, you know, when this first started, this whole route shifting about 3 years ago, I was pretty critical of Samtrans, and outwardly so and publicly so, and took on, well, anyway, let me tell you, I'm really thrilled with this. I am much happier that we have an opportunity to incrementally change, and I'll promise you I'll do everything I can to help.
Well, I appreciate it. We're trying to get out of the business of being the big agency that tells you what's right for your community. So you guys know much better what's good for your community, and
Thank
we
you.
want to make sure we have a collaborative relationship.
And I just wanted to add, I'm glad Mayor Pro Tem brought up in her first comments about where we were looking a year ago, because it was looking at just losing the service altogether. So I'm glad that there's, you know, this program that is a pilot, and hopefully it'll be something that fits this community. It's a really unique spot back there, and it looks like a good place for the pilot because there's no place that's too far away from the route. And so hopefully that's going to be something that it really lends to success here. So I did want to ask you though, how long does it take to make one of these loops?
We want to try to get it under half an hour. If we can get it under half an hour, then we can offer as many as 22 trips a day. So we are working with the contractor right now, and they need to go out with a bus, and we need to do some trial runs.
Yeah.
But right, you know, it's contract negotiations can
Sure.
take longer than we thought.
How many stops?
So it'll stop about every quarter mile, which is what the current Route 14 does. So it'll maintain those same stops
So what does that work out to?
along that route. I think there's about
Maybe 4 or 5 miles?
400 or 500. There's like,
Is it a 5 mile, 6 mile loop?
yeah, I think so.
Maybe 7?
So yeah, there'd be about 35 stops, I want to say,
Okay.
off the top of my head.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm also concerned about the discontinuing of weekends, but like where we were a year ago, looking at losing this service altogether, I think this is a pretty good compromise, and hopefully we can make it work. And let us know if we can help, with outreach or facilitate that here. We'd be happy to, to partner there. We want to make sure that, we're really trying to get our service to fit our community, and it's been challenging in the past. So we really look forward to working with you guys on this one.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. And we have one more comment here from Councilmember Degree before we wrap up.
A question, the Take Ones, is that your advertisement? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean by
they're advertisements that we have on the bus. We can even put them on the seats so that you can't ignore them. But yeah, we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to see information about it, multiple languages, so.
It's not ready yet, though.
No.
Okay. So you'll probably give us some of those.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we get them over to you, that you have an opportunity. If you'd like, we can see if you can review it before it goes on the bus.
Great. Thank you so much for your presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the time and the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to council communications. Well, let's just,
Oh, yeah.
and can you get your contact information to the city manager? Thank you so much. All right, so that leaves us to,
Whoopsie.
Oops.
Flash.
everyone's okay, good.
Nobody injured.
Council communications, anyone like to begin? Councilmember O'Neill?
Yeah, I wrote down everything. I'm trying to find it. I just wanted to say it was actually a pretty good week. We had our interviews for the different commissions that we had, and then actually Councilmember Sue Degree and I attended this thing that was very interesting. It's called Connect 13, and it was on how to use different media to open up communications with different groups and ways for the police department to really do it, and how citizens can actually register that if they just want to hear about police, they can hear about police. If they want to hear about city council, they can register for city council. So it was actually quite interesting. I know Ginny Jakewith was there, who was also on your committee, so I was going to try and meet with her and see maybe if there was something we could do. 3 of us were at the Council of Cities dinner. I also participated in something that's always pretty fun, is that's the food giveaway at the Resource Center down at the Legion Hall. And they will need more people next month because of the Thanksgiving holiday. Heard the Pacifica Democrats debate, and Karen Irvin, our colleague, did very well in that debate. Attended a thing for Jerry Hill, a meet and greet put on by the Chamber for Jerry Hill.
Councilmember Irvin?
Hey, I also attended with Mayor Pro Tem Nyhart and Mike O'Neill, the Council of Cities dinner. It was in Millbrae, and there was a speaker there. He's CEO and president of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. So it was really a very informative talk, and basically this group serves as a forum on public policy issues, and they work with community leaders on a variety of issues that affect Silicon Valley, which includes us, and it's about transportation and education and all sorts of things that affect cities, and how public policy is being affected in California, both at a local, a county, a state, and a federal level. So very informative and very interesting discussion, and I think we should all be engaged in these discussions. So that was very helpful. I also was part of a Pacifica School Volunteers meeting, and one of the primary things in that meeting was the fact that they very much are in need of additional volunteers for the schools. So I'd really encourage anybody that has that extra time, if they would like to volunteer at the schools, either for a special event. They have many special events, including senior exhibition days at Oceana, or Read Aloud days at Sunset Ridge and Ortega, and just everyday need to be at the schools and working with children. If your children are grown or you just happen to have some extra time, I strongly encourage you to contact the Pacifica School Volunteers and just volunteer whenever you can. It's a wonderful organization for this community. And I think that's it.
Okay. Councilmember Degree?
Right, I attended the fire open house, which is always excellent and gives some very important safety rules. Also the dinner, which is out in Michael's, which is like you go into the Never Never Land. Anyway, they were talking about CEQA, and it was stymied, or if that's the correct word, by the Sacramento Sports Arena. So the discussions on CEQA got a little bit squashed because of some horse trading of some kind, so I think we'll hear more about that later. As with Councilman O'Neill, I thought the Connect 13, which was with Facebook, Google, several others, was really fascinating and shows some really 21st century ways of being able to have town hall engagements and the more specific things like he mentioned for police or fire. That was quite exciting. We're looking forward to more discussion and investigation of that. I attended the Recreation Department's haunted house and fun enclosure with the games. I have to say the haunted house was really very good. And also ran over to Valimar, and they also had a very good haunted house. Maybe I like haunted houses. I don't know. They were very well done, and a lot of hard work for people. I met with, we've been getting emails from Pacific Skies residents, being very attentive to those. And with the city manager, I did meet with one of the owners and directors to listen to that side and also to put in a word to protect all residents in Pacific Skies for their free speech and courtesy towards their needs. I think that was it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, just a comment to the rest of you on the Silicon Valley leadership presentation being, you probably heard some of it, but being at the table with the speaker was kind of this interesting little discussion about different ways that government can work with some of the Fortune 500, which they really are, of Silicon Valley. So it was a thought-provoking presentation, just in terms of how we could potentially bring a small startup or something along those lines into our community. Which brings me to the beautification task force meets in the next week and in the coming first week here of November. And we're always looking for volunteers for projects as we go forward. So one of the things that we'll be taking on is the projects there at Lindemar Boulevard next. So see that there will be a call for some help out there. I also wanted to let you know that we did have our administrative meeting today for CCAG, and at that meeting, I believe the projects will probably go forward that are as they stand right now, but we have the funding for the BPAC projects that it'll all depend on the vote of the full body of CCAG, but they have to go to MTC also. So I just wanted to make people aware of that, because it's actually the Metropolitan Transportation Commission's oversight money that is funding those projects. I also wanted to let you know that we had just enough applicants for the seats that we have available, so I'm guessing everybody gets confirmed, but on the subcommittees, but I'm not 100% about that, and I know a couple of you signed up for some subcommittees. And last but not least, I have the, well, I'll be chair. It's that simple. So it officially starts now, so that's going forward. So anyway, it's an interesting time.
Congratulations.
Good. Well, congratulations to Mayor Pro Tem Nyhart for becoming the chair of CCAG. Is it official yet?
It is. Yeah, December 1st is technically it, but I'm chairing the next meeting because Brent's not there, and then that's it.
Right. Well, I know one of the goals at our council goal study session, gosh, at the end or the beginning of this year, was for all the council members to get more involved in the countywide committees, so that we can, really have our fingers on the pulse of where the money is and all the happenings and best practices going out there. So a classic overachiever. Now, Mayor Pro Tem Nyhart chairing one of the most important committees in the county. So congratulations, and congratulations to maybe congratulations, but Councilmember Irvin and O'Neill that both put in applications for those committees. So hopefully you'll be confirmed on those as well. It's really a great step for us, and I think it's really going to help us both financially and with policy in the future. So I think everyone's doing a great job on that front. Wanted to say congratulations to the people that put on the Hawaiian Festival on Saturday. It was at the Surf Spot. Originally, the person that put that together, along with Javier Chavarria, a member of the Economic Development Committee, came to the Economic Development Committee and presented the idea. And they wanted to start out small, and this was the first go of it on Saturday. So it's really nice to see people like that are experienced putting on things, wanting to come to Pacifica and invest their time and energy in our community. And seeing it go from the committee to fruition on this Saturday in just a couple of months was really great. So another positive step coming out of the Economic Development Committee, and I want to thank everyone involved in that. It was great. And then Mayor Pro Tem alluded to, but at the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee on Thursday, we scored projects, and there was over a dozen projects, and only 5 of them got funded. And Pacifica was chosen. We received, well, it's not official yet, but we recommended that $140,000 come back to Pacifica for improvements of our streets crossings by our schools. So really, really important project for all the kids and parents here and our school sites. So congratulations to Van, great presentation and application, and we're really happy to vote on that on Thursday night. So another reason why we're wanting to get out in those committees is so that we can bring home some funds here to Pacifica. So very positive step there. And that's all I have. Councilmember O'Neill, do you want to add one last thing?
Well, no, actually, I was just, Mary Ann kept using acronyms, and I was going to ask her to kind of define BPAC and all of that. But then you said BPAC, so you answered the question.
Okay, good. All right. We have to keep those acronyms to a minimum. Councilmember Degree.
I also want to, I'm glad that Van's name came up, because regarding the shuttle, he has been really an advocate out there for years in the different meetings that are held, hearing meetings throughout the county. So I want to thank you, Van, for another shuttle.
Thank you. All right, and we'll close council communications and bring oral communications up. I do not have any cards, and we do not have any back there either. So,
Okay.
anyone?
Joshua over there.
Josh, did you want to speak? You're presenting. Okay.
Presenting.
All right, I will close oral communications from the public. I think that we might have made history right there, that there's no speakers.
We did make history.
All right, and that brings us to item number 6, consideration wastewater.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
We do have an urgency item that we would like to add to the agenda.
Okay.
So the procedure is the council, 2/3 of the council, meaning 4 of the members present, must vote that there is a need to take immediate action. And you must also vote that the need to take the action came to the attention of the staff after the posting of the agenda. So I'm going to have the manager give you some factual evidence to support making those findings. And then if you agree with the findings, then the council by a 2/3 vote would need to make 2 motions, or you can combine them into one to make those findings. And then once you make those findings, then you would need another motion to actually add it to the agenda.
Okay, and then we can, in that motion, talk about the order or what have you. The order is not
Correct.
so important
Correct.
Okay.
as just getting it on. Okay, take it away.
Good evening. There should be a copy of the report at the dais for you, and also in the back for the public. This has to do with the repair of a fan at the wastewater treatment plant, which we had occur middle of last week. Staff very carefully and as quickly as possible figured out what the right approach to repairing or replacing the fan was. We just got the quote for the cost of the fan today, and again, that's partly why we're bringing it to you tonight, is that this was an urgency item that came together after the agenda was posted. One of the key findings that caused us to bring it to you is we want to get this repaired just as quickly as possible. because we are subject to air quality standards, and there is some concern that if there was a catastrophic failure of some sort, that we could actually violate the standards and then be subject to a penalty by the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. We did consider bringing it to you at your next meeting on November 12th, but then doing that, we lose 2 weeks in the ordering process, and the company that fabricates this equipment for us does it on a custom basis, and we really did not want to lose that 2-week time frame. So we thought those were conditions that made sense to bring it to you tonight. We hope that you agree with us and that you will take action on it tonight as requested.
Okay. I have a question here, but we're only going to be taking questions on whether we should consider
Correct.
this to be an emergency.
Ready to make a motion?
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council before Mayor Pro Tem asks if she's going to make a motion?
Yeah, I was just going to make a motion that this is obviously an urgency item, so I would move that. Go
There is
ahead.
an immediate need to take action,
There's immediate need to take action. She's talking for me. I love
and
it.
the need to take action came to the attention of staff after the posting of the agenda.
And the need to take action immediately came to the attention of staff after the posting of the agenda. No problem.
Councilmember Degree?
Second.
Okay, please vote. And that passes 5-0. And now you said we needed a motion to put it on the
Add it to
agenda.
the agenda and determine where in the agenda you would like to place it.
I'd
Okay.
like to
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
just move that it be added to the agenda as the last item.
Okay, Councilmember Degree?
Second.
Okay, please vote. All right, and that passes 5-0. So for those of you watching at home, after item number 8, we'll have one more item.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that brings us to item number 6, the wastewater force main condition assessment project. Mr. Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mayor Stone and council members. The City of Pacifica's cease and desist order, CDO, number R2 2011-0031, negotiated and finalized in 2011 with the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board, included the requirement to CCTV inspect and assess the condition of the city's wastewater force mains by March of 2013. To complete this requirement and remain in compliance with the city's CDO, the department would have had to spend a significant amount of money and resources, and staff believed the CCTV inspection would not have provided useful information to assess the condition of the force mains anyway. As a result, staff approached the Regional Water Quality Control Board with the proposed amendment to the CDO that included alternative inspection processes and an extended time frame for project completion to 2014. The Regional Water Quality Control Board agreed with this proposal, and amendment was formally accepted in February of 2013. The alternative inspection processes are at the forefront of wastewater industry inspection standards, and a qualified engineering firm is required to complete this work. Staff developed a request for proposal, an RFP, and scope of work for this project, and distributed copies to the qualified engineering firms of RMC Water, Brown & Caldwell, and Kennedy Jinks. Brown & Caldwell was the only engineering firm that responded with a proposal. Staff has reviewed this proposal, and the document meets the specifications of the RFP and scope of work, and the schedule is within the requisite time frame. The time frame for this project is very tight, as the assessment must be completed by March of 2014, and the project completion date from Brown & Caldwell is March of 2014. The bid for the project from Brown & Caldwell is $240,628, and staff is also including 10% or $24,062 in contingency costs to the City Council agenda item. Staff included in the 2013-14 fiscal year budget accounts of 34.900,000.52,800.C033.000 and 34.900,000.52,800.C005.000, the required funding for this project. Attached to the City Council agenda item is the proposed consultant services agreement, Brown & Caldwell's proposal, a letter from Kennedy Jinks declining to submit a proposal, and a message from RMC Water declining to submit a proposal. And that concludes my staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just had 2 questions. One is, on the closed-circuit TV, can you tell me why it wouldn't work in the force main? Just
Yeah, I'm happy
for
to.
everybody's edification?
So this is our main force main that runs basically from this here, which is our Sharp Park pump station right to my right. and also to the Clare Creek Water Recycling Plant, and the force main from the Linamar pump station at the Linamar Beach to the Clare Creek Water Recycling Plant. The force main consists of reinforced concrete pipe, which is basically, there's a steel pipe with concrete on the inside and concrete on the outside. And when you CCTV that, which closed circuit television, you're putting a camera inside the pipe, and you're basically looking at the inside of the pipe. So all you're going to be able to assess as far as condition goes is what that inside concrete looks like. You will find nothing as far as the steel that reinforces it, and you won't find out anything as far as the concrete that's on the outside of the steel. So you're only going to be learning really about a third of that pipe. And then the other portion of the force main consists of polyethylene pipe, a black polyethylene plastic pipe, and it is extremely difficult to CCTV dark black pipe just because the lighting required is very difficult. And again, you're looking at just the inside of the pipe and not the outside, and so you're limited on your findings, and that's basically the reason why.
Okay. And the second question was more to our city attorney. And I know I read these things and but every once in a while something catches your eye, and I'm just curious about the no liability of contractor for the cease and desist order. Is that just like a standard clause, or, I mean, basically they're fulfilling part of the cease and desist order, so they would have a responsibility there. I just thought it was an interesting clause. It's clause 9. Sorry. Just curious why.
Yeah. That clause is just a reflection that the contractor had no involvement in the cease and desist order.
Causing it.
In causing it originally.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to just clarify. Okay.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Hi, Georgia. I just wanted to clarify that the reason we're hiring this consultant is basically, or maybe Michelle has the answer, is a settlement because with the Regional Water Quality Board, correct? And what was the settlement for? What caused that 2011 settlement?
Well, that had to do with a number of sanitary sewer overflows in the collection system, due mostly to wet weather overflows, and also a bypass of the Clare Creek Water Recycling Plant that happened in a specific rain event. This provision was really included because the regional board wanted to make sure that we were inspecting all of our risks of our entire system, and the force main is one of that. So there were no force main failures that were included as part of that CDO, but they wanted to include everything because they wanted us to assess all of our risks, really, of our system.
So basically, the reason we're hiring this consultant is because it's beyond the ability of the staff to perform it. It's a very specialized task.
Yes, it is very specialized. I mean, parts of it are very straightforward as far as parts of the pipe will be excavated and things of that nature. Part will be inspected. That's somewhat routine, but the actual inspection processes, the radar inspection, the taking pieces of the pipe and actually analyzing in a lab, yes, that's something that staff is not able to do.
So if we wanted to do this ourselves, it would entail hiring extra employees to actually do this, as well as extra equipment to perform the tasks to meet the requirements of the cease and desist, correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so that's why we are hiring this consultant. I just want to be sure everybody's clear on that. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Irvin.
My questions have largely been answered, but I did have one question. I just would like to know that since we only have one estimate basically given because two of the firms didn't want to provide an estimate because of time constraints and whatnot, so just ask the basic question that we feel comfortable and good that this is in the range of expectations in terms of the final bid.
Yes, to the best of our ability, we believe this is a good bid. And it's significantly less than what it would have taken to do the original provision, which would have been in excess of $1 million to do that. So Yes.
Thank you.
Questions, sir? You don't have to.
Yeah, just so I'm clear, so the odor will be changed to a better odor or no odor, is that correct? This will affect the odor.
This doesn't affect, this is not having to
This
do
was
with
not
the
the odor
fan
one?
breakdown. No, this
Okay.
is separate item.
Thank you.
Yeah, my only question was, Councilmember Irvin touched on it, was about the bidding. How long was the RFP timeframe?
We gave them the minimum time that is required for the RFP process. I think it was 14 business days, I believe, is what it was.
Okay.
I can get that exact number if you'd like. I don't know off the top of my head.
Sure, and I just feel a responsibility to ask that, do you feel like if there was a longer time given, or if they went for another proposal, that we would have a significant savings with just as good of work here?
Yeah, we would not get, in my opinion, we would not get any savings. If we gave more time, certainly we could probably get another bid. The problem is we'd be running against the time constraints of the provision to the CDO. But the bid itself, there would be very little difference, I would foresee.
Okay, thank you. With no other questions, open up for public comment. You have any cards on this one? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I'm really glad that Councilmember O'Neill brought up issues about consultants, because we try to do that all the time. I mean, that's why we hire consultants, is when we don't have something else, someone that can do that on staff. This particular issue, as part of the consent decree, and having followed this and argued this and been with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, it's just another aspect of what we have to do, and you're absolutely right, it's about risk. So with that, I would move that, I just lost it because this thing went to sleep, that we authorize staff to sign the attached consultant agreement for the Forced Main Condition Assessment Project with Brown and Caldwell in an amount not to exceed $264,690.
Councilmember O'Neill?
I'm always going to second that.
Okay, any questions or anything
No,
else from anyone?
second.
Good. Okay, please vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work on this.
That takes us to item number 7, letter to California Coastal Commission in support of the Holiday Inn Express expansion project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. At the last council meeting, the council showed interest in sending the California Coastal Commission in a letter in support of the Holiday expansion project that was approved by the Planning Commission on August 19th. Staff has drafted a letter. Some of the language that staff included was some of the findings that were contained in the resolutions that were approved by the planning commissioners. So you have the draft in front of you. So if you have any comments or any questions, thank you.
Any questions for staff? Councilmember Degree?
It might be more for us. The statement that we would like to see it on the agenda in December, I think could be stronger. Are we not interested in that? Kind of more of an advocacy to have it heard in December.
Okay. Do you have any, let's do questions and then let's deliberate after we go to public, if you will.
That is my question.
Any other questions?
Well, why did we want it on in December?
It's the meeting in December is in San Francisco.
There we go. I knew there was a reason.
Just so we could have staff attend, or, well, at a more cost-effective way. We could always have staff attend, I suppose.
Maybe he wants a trip.
Yeah. Okay, I'll open up public comment. Any questions from public? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Comments, questions? Anyone? Motion? Councilmember O'Neill?
I don't know if the rest of the council would feel this, but I do think that hotel is actually probably a good location, and if you look at the topography there of the streets, the parking lot, etc., that someone in a wheelchair or handicapped actually has better access there than they would from Lindemar. because there's a lot of pavement in that area for them to get pretty close to the beach, and maybe an advocacy that, you know, the hotel will probably have some handicapped rooms, that they're all, you know, the mission of the Coastal Commission is to foster visitor, you know, public use of the beaches, and that would be serving an underserved portion of the population.
Sure. Can I ask staff, I know the Coastal Commission has their own, they have their mission, right? Very clearly stated in a huge document. And I know that our reasoning for wanting this will, of course, be consistent with that, but also we may have other reasons. But I guess from my perspective, the thing that we should do in advocating for this project is really advocate under their mission. And so I would defer to staff that has a lot more experience in dealing with the Coastal Commission. Does this letter, is this letter consistent with their mission and thus more likely to be in compliance with what they're trying to achieve?
We think it is. I mean, we tried to focus in on those elements of the Coastal Act and the local coastal program that they're going to be reviewing and making their decision on this appeal. The other information about economic development and all those other things I think are worthwhile to be put in the letter, but honestly speaking, I don't think the Coastal Commission themselves will really make that a consideration when they rule on the appeal. So we tried to focus in on those things relative to the coastal development permit, the findings that were in the resolutions that the Planning Commission adopted when they unanimously approved the project, and then dropped them into this letter.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know how everyone thinks there's a full thing of lights here, but that's my biggest thing is if we're going to advocate for this, let's do it in a way that is really going to, that's effective to the body that we're pleading to almost here, or being supportive of this project too. So let's just go down the line with comments here. Councilmember Irvin.
I'm sorry, my question was just answered.
Okay.
I'm great.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I was just going to move approval. The letter of support was.
Okay, let's just get to these guys first, and then Councilmember Degree, we'll go.
Well, I'm back to my same question. You know how we always hear complaints that Coastal Commission takes forever, and how developers lose money. I'm just concerned that we're not putting more advocacy on hear it in our area, which would be December. I think that would be, the letter's a little bit on the long side, so
Yeah.
it might get a little lost. I mean, they could put it in for San Diego in 6 months or something.
I mean, I think it's a good point. When we drafted the letter, we did not have any idea when this item might actually be scheduled. And as you know, the staff has a role in this, but it's really primarily between the applicant, which is the Holiday Inn, and the Coastal Commission. So we're trying to stay abreast of these things. So I think advocating for a particular date because of the convenience of having it locally, it would be a good idea. I can't guarantee that they'll agree to that, but at least I think it's worthwhile putting in there.
Okay. Councilmember O'Neill.
I just kind of wanted to ask our city manager, I think, who actually interned or something, if I remember correctly, at the Coastal Commission, her thoughts on this letter. No offense, planning, but she lived it.
Well, I have to just clarify that my summer with the Coastal Commission was more than 20 years ago. So I think my experience may be different than what George and other staff have had. But to build on what you've said, I think asking them to have the hearing close to home for us and on a particular date would be a great addition to the letter. And beyond that, Councilmember O'Neill, I'm not sure I can offer a lot more.
20 years, I don't think that's true.
So it sounds like we have a consensus to the letter as is, and adding Councilmember Degree's very good point of trying to ask them to have a meeting in December. So entertain a motion. Or you want to go ahead? Sue, go ahead and make a motion.
I'll make a motion, although, do you want to consider the letter being a little bit shorter? I mean, is it going to fit on one page? I have a thing about everything being on one page.
I think we can probably manipulate it so it'll still remain on one page.
Okay.
I anticipate it's probably one additional line or half a line.
Okay. I recommend that we approve the letter with the advocacy to have the hearing in San Francisco in December.
Excellent. Mayor Pro Tem.
I second that.
Okay, please vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 8 is appointment of citizens to the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission. We have a staff report.
Mayor, council members, the city has recruited applicants to serve as members of the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission. This was advertised in the Pacifica Tribune for 3 weeks consecutively. The city clerk received 7 applications. City council conducted interviews on October 23rd, and council may make appointments at this time.
Okay. Have any questions? Questions? No? Okay. Open the public comment. Do we have any cards? Okay. Bring it back to council. Councilmember O'Neill.
I was just going to make a motion. We had 7 applicants, 7 openings, that all those that applied will be appointed to the Emergency Preparedness Commission.
Okay. Do we have a second on that? Councilmember Degree, do you want to comment?
Yes, it is a second and a comment. They were all excellent candidates.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem, you want to comment before we vote?
Yes, I just wanted to say the same thing I said that night, is that this process of going through and interviewing everybody, even if people have been on commissions, it's been refreshing.
Yeah.
It's been an engagement process again. It's let us know who people are. I can't tell you how grateful I am for every single one of the individuals that steps up and serves on that commission, and I highly support their efforts. They were an outstanding group.
Councilmember Irvin.
I'll just add on to the same theme here. They were just a phenomenal group of people. It just is really inspiring to be able to be part of these interviews and just get to meet these people that are contributing so much to our city, and they've been doing it for a very long time, many of them, and they're just very dedicated to our city, and they do it quietly. They get a tremendous amount done, and I'm just thrilled to have them part of these committees and part of our community.
Great. And I just quick comment. Yeah, it has been great to talk with all the members of the committees. We have a couple more to go, I believe, and it's been nice to just know their background, get to know them better. On the Emergency Preparedness Committee, there's a few nurses and managers of hospitals and things like that that are, really giving their time, because they do that in their professional life, bringing it back home. And that's a really high-functioning committee, along with working with our police department over the last decade and a half. You guys have done a great job on that committee as well. So it's really been a great thing, and I think all the people will do a great job that we interviewed. So with that, please vote. All right, that passes 5-0.
Okay.
All right, last item. That's our emergency item, which is approve dispensing with competitive bidding procedures and authorize the city manager to enter into purchase agreement with Hartzell Air Movement. Air Movement, wonderful. Take it away.
The main odor fan, also known as the scrubber fan in the Clara Creek water recycling plant, is used to provide a slight negative pressure within the headworks and headspace and to convey air through odor reduction system. It is a very important piece of equipment system for odor control. Last week, the staff noticed that the main odor fan was shaking vigorously, such that staff needed to shut the unit down to investigate. It was found through the inspection report that 3 small pieces of fiberglass had come off the impeller, which caused the impeller to become unbalanced. Staff contacted Hartzell Air Movement and Hartzell, the manufacturer of the fan, for advice, and we were told that new parts will be needed to be installed. Staff also contacted Balance Engineering to balance the impeller, which made it possible to put the fan back in operation. Besides balancing the impeller, Balance Engineering inspected the entire fan and advised staff that while the fan is not in danger of total failure at this moment, over time more pieces of the impeller will come off and it will eventually fail. Initially, staff believed that replacing the fan with one-piece unit was the preferred approach, but after fully assessing the options, determined that it is more economical, both financially and in terms of timing, to rebuild the fan system instead of purchasing a new one. New parts such as impeller, shaft, inlet cone, bearings will be needed to be purchased through the original manufacturer because they need to fit our existing system. It is also important that we purchase through Hart Sale because they already know the plant and have the records and all of our original designs. Our staff will install the equipment, parts, and rebuild the fan system in-house. It is essential that we rebuild the fan system as soon as possible because without the operating properly, the plant does not have the ability to pump bad air from all the odor-producing units in the plant and direct them to the odor reduction system. Failure to control the odors properly could result in a penalty from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. The city's normal purchasing procedure, including competitive bidding, may be dispensed with when necessary for the protection of public peace, health, safety, welfare, or property, or when the item can be provided by only one vendor. Pacifica Mutual Code, Section 3-4.09 A and B. Here, the manufacturer of the main odor fan will create numerous problems with the proper function of the wastewater treatment plant. The fan must be repaired immediately for the protection of the public health and safety. Moreover, only Hart Sale has the parts needed to fit our existing system. As a result, the city may make the necessary findings to dispense with the city's purchasing policy. Purchase of the parts from Hart Sale is needed to protect the public health and safety, and Hart Sale is the only vendor who can provide these parts. The equipment parts is a total of $41,817. The estimated sales tax is $3,763.53, and the freight is estimated to be $2,614 for a total of $48,194.53. Council action requested approve dispensing with competitive bidding procedure and authorize the city manager to enter into purchase agreement with Hart Sale Air Movement for the purchase of parts for the Calera Creek Water Recycling Scrubber Fan Blower in the amount of $48,194.53. Facility Construction Fund 34, account 34.900000.52800.P024.000. City, subject to city attorney approval. Includes the staff report. Glad to answer some questions.
Thanks, Dave. Can I ask, if this was an emergency item, would it normally be on consent?
Most likely it would be, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just seems like a normal thing that, you know, it would be nice if the air could blow out of the wastewater plant. So,
Better watch what you...
do we, a couple lights here. Council member, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem.
Just one quick question. You put a conclusion in here that it's more economical financially and in terms of timing to rebuild the fan, even though you thought a full unit would be a better choice. And intuitively, it seems like getting a whole new thing.
Well, when we looked at the whole thing, it
Yeah.
turned out not
So
to be a better choice, simply because if you could see where this fan is and the equipment that are around it, all the things that we have to disassemble would be unbelievable.
Okay.
And it would take so much time. It
To
would
get
take probably
one unit.
over a month to install this thing.
Okay.
Where if we replace the parts we're going to work nonstop. We're looking at like maybe a 24-hour shift, just working nonstop until we get this thing done. I think we can do it in 24 hours to put all the new parts in. And those are all the new moving parts. The only thing that we're keeping is the case. So this large case, this blower stands probably 12, 14 feet, something like that. It's huge. It's all fiberglass. And so we're replacing the impeller. We have to replace the shaft, the bearings, and the seals. And so all the moving parts are being replaced. So what we're going to end up with is a new fan. And it'll take us a lot less time to do it.
And it's more economical just in
Yes.
terms of the cost.
The whole thing, I didn't get a price for the whole thing, but I'm sure it would be in the neighborhood of $100,000.
That's great.
Councilmember O'Neill.
I just kind of had a general question is, I noticed in here that it's a lot of customization to parts, and I was just wondering, how long did that fan last?
You know, that fan has been in service. It runs 24/7. We don't ever shut it off. We've shut it off a couple times for a very short period of time in the last 13 years. So this thing's been running nonstop for 13 years.
Yeah.
It's all fiberglass, and the impeller they start with a steel frame and then they fiberglass over it. That's to protect the steel because the air it's pumping is full of all kinds of gases, compounds, and a lot of moisture, very corrosive. So that's why it's all fiberglass, and it has to be handmade and it has to be custom made. So this is not an item they're going to go to the shelf and pull off the shelf. They're going to have to custom make it.
The only question I had is if it's customized and it takes 2 or 3 weeks because we're subject to fines, would it be worth it to order 2 or 3 so we had them on the shelf? But I guess 13 years, it's kind of probably not really needed to be.
Yes, and Hartzell since has made some improvements. The style of impellers that we have, they're only projected to last, about 15 years. And but our system, because of our digester system, it's a very unique digester system, and it puts out a lot of moisture, and it really put a burden on this fan. So the new fan, they don't layer it anymore. They actually, it's in a mold, and it's just a solid piece of plastic and steel. And so there are no seams for it to fail. And then they also coat them now with a coating to keep the moisture out of it. So we project that it hopefully will last a little longer. But I think we need to learn a lesson here too, and we need to, project when this thing's going to fail next and be on top of it. And you're right, get one ordered and get it here. But I don't think we need to do that right now. It would just be sitting around for 15, 20 years.
Well, that was kind of my question, being it's customized and takes longer to make, you know what I mean? So the fine would probably be quite dear,
Councilmember Degree.
Right, actually, my 2 questions were answered, but I just want to make sure I got it. So you're saying that once you fix it, it will be another 13 to 15 years? Did I hear that?
Yes, that's what we're projecting.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll close or open up the public comment. Any questions back there? Okay. Bring it back to council. Yeah, this seems, I think in these things, we get a lot of maintenance stuff. It probably would have been on the consent calendar otherwise, and it seems like a very general thing that we have to do here. And it looks like, you guys are taking a very prudent approach. I really appreciate that. And I think the community does as well. So thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I want to move that I should have had this when you did it, that you approve, or that we approve dispensing with a competitive bidding procedure and authorize the city manager to enter into a purchase agreement with Hartzell Air Movement in care of Air Handling Equipment, Inc. for the purchase of parts for the Calera Creek Recycling Plant scrubber fan blower in the amount of $48,194.53.
Councilmember O'Neill.
I'll second it.
Okay. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. And that is our last item for the evening. Have a good night.